This is the Bottom Line Sports Show with Gerald Brown and Rick Mahorn.
Imagine you trade a Chet Holmgren for a Giannis Antetokounmpo.
These guys are athletic as you know what, and you go like, oh my gosh, where's the fundamentals? Where's the pass first mentality? That's not in the league anymore.
And now here's your host, Gerald Brown and Rick Mahorn.
How's it go? What's going on, everybody? Gerald Brown here. Rick Mahorn, upcoming dynamic show as always. Coming up, unbelievable talk. We're going to get into a lot of this discussion about last night's Knicks Cavs game. An outstanding young man. He's done a great job in the NBA. Hard working, blue collar guy. Mr. George's Niang will be joining me and Rick momentarily. Make sure you hit the subscribe button right there, youtube.com. And then also to hang with me on this Saturday on the Nightcap on Sirius XM Mad Dog Sports Radio from 8 p.m., actually 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Hang out with me there. And then for the holiday weekend, hang on with me. We do a lot of dynamic stuff on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Make sure you hang out and join us there. So upcoming, gonna have, like I said before, Rick Mahorn, as I see George's Niang is there. He's on time. I don't understand where Rick is. But nevertheless, you know what? Break George on right now. Young man. He's done an outstanding job in the NBA. Big things on the horizon for him as he took the season off to get healthy. Get healthy. Put your hands together. Won the outstanding. George Niang.
What's going on?
George, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm a little perturbed because the big fella, I guess he's in makeup right now, but Rick is momentarily he'll be with us and stuff like that. So really appreciate you taking the time and definitely apologize about Rick's little absence momentarily, being a little delayed. But nevertheless, I want to first and foremost ask you, how has the foot been coming along? How's the injury healing? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Enjoying watching this playoff basketball. What great games we've seen in the playoffs, huh? It's been phenomenal. I see that you got your Knicks gear on. You must be pumped up after what happened last night.
Well, I'll tell you the backstory on that. I used to be a ball boy for the Knicks many years ago. So there was an old story that when I went to college, I worked for the Boston Celtics. Got fired as a ball boy for the Celtics because I rooted for the Knicks when they played the Celtics in the playoffs. And they said, reportedly, Rick Mahorn said they stole my jacket or stuff like that. But nevertheless, I put the jacket back on to show some support for the New York Knicks.
I love that. The passion never dies, man. The passion never dies.
Yeah, not at all. So, again, from your perspective, I'll ask you plain and simple. Thoughts on just last night? You played with the Cleveland Cavaliers at one point in time. What was your takeaway from that game? And exactly, if you could, what went wrong, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, they played a really good 3 quarters of basketball, right? You know, they were even up 22 points in the fourth quarter. Sometimes in the heat of the game, like, people don't understand the Garden is crazy, it's loud. There's a lot of distractions, so when the Knicks tend to go on their runs, you got to find ways to stop those. And sometimes those are, layups, free throws. People are talking about timeouts, but that's here nor there. I think, the toughest part is when you come off a 7-game series. Game 1, you're running off pure adrenaline, right? Like, you're just rolling the next game. Like, it's almost like you were about to play an 8-game series where you want to catch the Knicks by surprise, because they've been resting for probably a week and a half. And they definitely did that. But you definitely saw that the Knicks had, well-rested legs, and they let the crowd take them to the finish line. And that was an impressive performance. Let's not take anything away from the Knicks. Like, Jalen Brunson was phenomenal. It wasn't a Cleveland collapse. It was more or less like the Knicks did a really good job of making shots. Like, OG's making shots, Landry Shamet's making shots. Jalen Brunson made 5 or 6 shots in a row that you were like, wow. The off the glass ones, the runners, the step back 3, Mikal Bridges from the corner. I mean, the Knicks made a lot of shots.
Yeah, George, I want to ask you this because again, obviously you're playing in the NBA, and the biggest thing is being able to, just like you said before, look at the game and then move on. The good thing about the playoffs at times is that the fact is that you can be able to have a day off and then reset, and then you get right out there to play again. And theoretically, if you want to make sure, just kind of throw the tape away, the old adage of burning the tape and forget about it and move on to the next game. How difficult is it, from a player's perspective, to be in that space where you have a collapse of that magnitude to make sure that, it doesn't sort of creep back in for game two? How does a player, from your perspective, make sure that, that was just an anomaly and not make sure that it doesn't happen in game two?
I mean, here's how you really got to break it down. Like, a series is a set of games, right? There's a 7-game series, and the Knicks have home court advantage. So last night would have been a huge opportunity to take away home court advantage from the Knicks. So as a player, you're thinking, damn, we lost an opportunity to kind of take home court advantage away from them. But on the positive, we did see some things where we could expose them. And, when the Cavs were playing really fast, it was exposing the Knicks, and they were allowed to get out to a big lead. And when they started to slow the game down and play in the half court, that's when New York was able to turn them over and catch up. So I think as a player, you're looking at it as like a one-game life, right? Okay, game one happened. That sucks. We hate it. But we also know we had these guys down 22. We have an opportunity to win game two, and then we go back home and we have the crowd with us. So I think moving forward, obviously it stings, it sucks, but you got to flush it. Yesterday you could have sulked all you wanted, but today it's like, how can we do the things that we did in the first 3 quarters for 4 quarters in game two? So that I'm sure they're upset, a little discouraged, but I know moving in as a player, you're like, all right, we have another crack at this. Let's go make it happen.
Yeah. How much do you lean on the veterans of that team to make sure that everybody, in a sense, presses a reset button and say, listen, that was one thing, and let's get focused and really make sure that, again, it doesn't happen again in game two?
Yeah, I think like, the Cleveland is not a young team, right? They're seasoned veterans. They have guys that have been in the league 6, 7+ years, right? Your youngest guy that's affecting you probably is, Evan Mobley, and he's been in the playoffs before. So these guys know what they need to do. Now it's a matter of fact of just going out there and executing it. They did a phenomenal job the first 3 quarters. Now it's just turning it into, how can we play 4 quarters of good basketball?
Yeah. Rick and I were last week, we were on the show, and we had Johnny Newman on, and Rick and I were talking about the fact is, Rick always said, hey, this whole thing about rest versus rust, and rust versus rest, vice versa. And obviously, as a player, how much of that really, when you look at last night's game and then even game one of the Western Conference Finals, how much of that would you say attributed to rust? Because, again, you guys are accustomed to being able to play either every other night or you're off for 2 days and stuff. And when you have, at this stage of the season, you have 3-4 days off, how much of that can you attribute to slow starts, to get rust, as opposed to just obviously trying to get back in the flow of things?
Yeah, I mean, people can never underestimate, how tough it is to come back with having too much rest. That's for sure. I have never really fared well with a ton of rest. So it's still something that I'm, trying to navigate. But all I know is when you have a day off in between, you don't even have time to think about how your body feels, whether if you're tired, sore, you just get out there and roll. When you have a couple days, a week's rest, you really got to gear up and muster up some energy to get rolling, because your normal for the last week has been practice, shoot arounds, working out by yourself. So, the rust thing is real, and I think you saw it with the Knicks. But to expect them to come out to a slow start like they did last night again in game two, that'd be hard for me to see.
Yeah, George, what besides Jalen Brunson, obviously his performance was very, very impressive. What other Nick really captured your attention? And obviously, from a player's perspective, what really stood out to you?
Yeah, I don't think Landry Shamet gets enough credit, right? Like, he has playing spot minutes, and he came in and was defending Donovan Mitchell, something that the rest of the guys were struggling doing. Donovan was having a great night, and I don't know what the stats were. When Landry got in there, he was doing a good job of, pressuring Donovan, keeping the ball out of his hands and forcing other guys on the Cavs to make plays. Along with, Mikal Bridges, he had a big time shot, down the fourth quarter. But, I think between those two, their defensive pressure allowed them to, slow the Cleveland Cavaliers down, and then both of them being able to make shots down the stretch. Those two are kind of like the unsung heroes.
Yeah. George, obviously you still playing and being in that space. Is it really true that a crowd could really kind of affect you in certain arenas, especially in these type of games, and just really, or is it just all obviously belief or just sort of myth that players can get affected by the crowds?
Yeah, there's some players it doesn't affect, and then there's others where they get rattled. I mean, there's not a lot of regular human beings that can handle being heckled or yelled or being in a place where there's 18,000 people screaming and all eyes are on you. I mean, some people are built for it and some aren't. And the people that it affects, you see who it affects. And the people that it doesn't, they rise to the occasion. Those people are just in a different category. But for someone to say it doesn't affect anything, the energy is real. If you've ever been somewhere and you listen to music when you work out, well, think about that times 20 when you're, or a million when you're at home, when your home fans are behind you. That's how, encouraging it is. And then on the road, you're doing anything in your power to make a shot or have a play that minimizes that sound and makes it quiet. I mean, that's kind of the thrill of being like a road villain.
Yeah. George, let's speak about the Western Conference. And obviously Game 2 is going to be taking place, and you have the Spurs and Thunder. And that first game was unbelievable. Again, one of the similar situations, kind of what I saw with the Thunder in terms of maybe just the rust. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had a hard time getting going, but Alex Caruso played a great, great game. What are your overall thoughts of that Western Conference Finals Game 1?
I mean, how can you not watch that game and not be like, this is playoff basketball is unreal, right? You look at what Victor Wembanyama has been able to do with his early years on, and you're like, wow, it is the league's in for a treat if that guy can continue to stay healthy and produce at the rate that he's producing. And the Spurs just looked like a team that had been in the Western Conference Finals before, and this is their first one. Like, are you kidding me? Like Dylan Harper, they throw you in there, you're a starter because De'Aaron Fox is out, and you don't skip a beat. I mean, obviously there was a couple turnovers here and there, but he looked phenomenal. Stephen Castle looked great. Wembanyama looked awesome. And then you look over at the Thunder, who are obviously seasoned veterans. Caruso coming off the bench and having 30-plus points. I guess you're kind of like, dang, you wish you win that game when someone off the bench explodes for a number like that. But that series is far from over. Like tonight, you're going to see an absolute dog fight. And how could you not love it? I mean, this is what it's all about, the intense moments. I think, was it double overtime that it was?
It was double overtime. But here's the thing, I'm going to have a pushback with you. And the thing is, I'm going to say this, that I really believe that this perhaps might be a must-win game, because if you look at the 5 meetings between these two teams, it's apparent that the Spurs perimeter players are more creative. They can create their own shots, as opposed to some of the guys for the Oklahoma City Thunder, where you need that guy SGA to really set other guys up. And when you look at guys like Keldon Johnson, big shots. You had Champagnie come in there, big shots. And then you have the sort of anomaly, which is, Victor Wembanyama, who doesn't have to – he can impact the game on the defensive side. He doesn't have to do it on the offensive side. And I just look at the fact is the Thunder are going to have to make sure they value those possessions. And it's really tricky with Wembanyama down there, man, in the paint and stuff like that. I think this might be a must-win. How do you see with that game too? Because I mean, again, we know the proverbial. It takes, it's a long series, whatever. But
yeah, no, this is definitely a must-win. I don't think anybody's questioning that. You can't go down 0-2 going into San Antonio. I'm not saying it's impossible. Like the Thunder have a great team, and I would never count them out. But the road gets that much harder. I think you saw it with Boston last year when they lost 2-0, when they were down 0-2 going to New York. I mean, it just gets a lot harder, and you do not want to make anything harder on yourself, especially in the playoffs. So this is a must win. I think these guys know that, you know, if they want to be able to expose the Spurs, they're going to have to get out and play fast and play off their turnovers. You know, when I was playing against Oklahoma City, the biggest thing they were like is do not turn the ball over against them, because they are like pick sixes, touchdowns. They steal the ball, they score on like 75% of the time. So if you have 12 team turnovers and they have 36 points off your turnovers, like that's a problem. So that's one of the ways that they can get out and beat the Spurs. And if the Spurs do a good job of taking care of the ball and getting the ball to their guys, this could be a trouble in the making, and Oklahoma City could be down 0-2.
Yeah, who are you picking, George? In both of these series, Cavs, Knicks, and Spurs and Thunder. Who are you picking?
I mean, I really it's tough to tell this early on. I mean, going in, I thought Oklahoma City was definitely going to be in the finals, and then, you know, with the Cavs coming off a 7-game series, I thought it was going to be, you know, the Knicks series to run away with. But, you know, the Cavs are in there putting up a dogfight, and then the Spurs came in and won a game in Oklahoma City. So it's a toss-up at this point. Like I said, I thought it was going to be OKC and the Knicks, and now I'm just at the edge of my seat waiting for game 2 of both series.
Yeah. You know, great politically correct answer and stuff like that. You know,
yeah, I still have a job. I'm still fighting for a job out here, man.
I know. That's why I'm just saying, you know, obviously I know the politically correct answer, but before we move on and stuff, and Rick is having some tech problems and stuff, he's texting back and forth and stuff. So hopefully we'll be able to get him on and stuff, because obviously Rick is a big fan, as I alluded to with you. We're both big fans of your work and stuff. Obviously, remembering you from BABC basketball and the AAU circuit here in New York City, myself with some of the Adidas programs. But I want to ask you, George, when you look at this offseason for you, George, talk about your offseason as you're looking to continue to play for a team next season and stuff like that. How would this offseason be for you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely finding a fit for me that, you know, is mutually beneficial, right? You know, a team that needs a veteran guy that can come in and make shots and play multiple positions and spread the floor and guard multiple positions. I think that's really what it comes down to. I'm not reinventing the wheel. People have seen 10 years of what I can do in the NBA, and you know, want to continue to grow and show what I can do to help a team, you know, win.
Yeah. What would be an ideal? Don't pick a team. I'm not going to expect you to do that. But what would be an ideal scenario for you, or situation? What would be?
I think an idea would be you have a role to contribute to a team winning. I think you can't ever knock being able to come in and night out and have a role with a team that you're helping them win. I think a lot of guys want this, want that. They want the icing on the cake. Having an opportunity to get out there and play and control your own destiny, that's the sweetest thing you could have.
Yeah, I'm going to take a chance, and I'm going to ask you this question, and hopefully, obviously, see how you answer it. Do you feel that you've gotten your opportunity, to really showcase what you can do? Because you was a bad boy in college, right? You were a bad boy in college and stuff like that, legendary program with the Cyclones at Iowa State. Do you feel that you've gotten that opportunity to showcase all of your abilities thus far in the NBA?
You know what? I think when it is about a team sport, I could sit here and be like, oh, you know, I wish I could do this, but I've been blessed with the opportunity to get out there and, you know, expand my game, to be who I can be, to contribute to a team and to a winning team. I've played, you know, 10 years in the NBA and gone to the playoffs, 8 of them, right? So if teams were letting me do what I was doing in college, who's to say that, you know, we wouldn't be the last place team, you know, in the NBA, or, you know, the 10th. You just never know. And sometimes you need to take these blessings or these humble moments and be like, hey, this isn't a part of my journey anymore. And sure, I love that I had the ball in my hands a ton in college, but in the NBA, there's people that have the ball in their hands that do it at an elite level. So I'm humble enough to know that, yes, I am a good player and I have a lot of skills, but there are some people that are just able to do it at a higher level. And there's some things that I can do as a role player that they can't do, and that we both need each other on the court to contribute and to win. And I've realized that over my 10-year career. So I could never sit here and say that I haven't gotten the opportunity, because if a coach has put me in the game, he's not controlling whether I dribble or not dribble or shoot, and that's on me. So anyone that's sitting here saying that you haven't given the opportunity, opportunities are not given. You have to go out there and earn them and take them. So for anyone that's out there thinking that I didn't get given the opportunity, save the excuse for the next story, in the backyard while we're playing dominoes. Like it's not realistic.
What do the playoffs at this time of the year mean to you, Georgie? Being a perennial guy that's been able to be on playoff teams, what does the playoffs mean to you? What is that feeling, if you could describe it?
I mean, there's nothing like it, right? You are in a dogfight, night in and night out. Just the intensity of it. I think that's the biggest part, is like you are there. There can be no mental lapses, because it seems like the team that you're playing against takes advantage of every mental lapse. So if you can minimize your mistakes and stick to the game plan, it usually ends up working out well for you. But the intensity of it, like you watch these games and you can feel the intensity from the couch when you see these games down in OKC in the Garden. And you're just like, you reminisce on those moments as a player where you're like, the crowd is roaring, you're up 5 or you're down 2 and your team makes a big shot, and you think of everything that you've been through as a team since September, and now it all comes to fruition in May, and you're looking to get into June. There's just so much meaning and so much hard work and man hours and things that have gone into the season that it's all down to this. Everything that you worked for that season is down to this moment right now.
Now, do you have, and before I let you get on out of here and stuff, do you ever have, like, and when it comes to the playoffs, is there ever a routine where perhaps you might have to cut the social media off or not watch the news, because fans live and die with just every game, and if there's a loss or something like that, it's fans. I can recall here in the tri-state area in New York where the Knicks lost, I think it was game 1, game 2, at the Garden, and just all of a sudden people was like, oh, get rid of Mikal Bridges. They need to do this. They need to do that. There's just, it's no way that they could just obviously just take it as one game and move on. Is there a space where, as a player, you decide really just to say, hey, I'm going to turn social media off, a la LeBron, or you don't really watch television per se, just to make sure you kind of remove yourself from it?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think any player, you have to realize who you are and be comfortable with who you are, and realize people are going to say whatever they want to say about you. But during the playoffs it's amped up even more, your focus. So I can understand getting rid of, social media. I even know guys that just decided to watch television on mute. They're watching the news and only going off pictures, so whether it's a picture of them shooting a basketball, they think that they're talking good about them when realistically they were saying how bad they suck. So, I think there's a way that all guys navigate it. And I think, when you're in the playoffs, you have to have triple the amount of focus that you did in the regular season, because the other team's focusing on you just as much or even more. So I think drowning out that noise, it's probably a little harder in New York. Moving around out there, people aren't afraid to say what's on their mind. So you might have to stay in the house at that point. But at the end of the day, you have to find what works for you. And if that's just completely toning out everyone else and only thinking good thoughts that you have, then so be it.
Yeah. Hey, listen, George, really appreciate the time, man. And my apologies. Rick likes to steal his neighbor's internet. So when he has these problems and stuff like that, he's got that long orange cord and stuff like that, and, being him, an old man and stuff like that. Yes, I'm going to get on him because this is embarrassing. But I definitely want to make sure that, again, just apologize on his behalf, and obviously with his tech issues and stuff like that. But we definitely want to say thank you for taking some time out of your schedule. Hey, listen, get healthy, get back out there, because there is definitely a place for you in the NBA, especially with veterans that are savvy and they have the game and the high basketball IQ. There's definitely a place out there for you, and really, really pulling for you, man, and enjoy this offseason. And hopefully next time around we get you on the show, maybe you'll be able to tell us what team you'll pick for the NBA Finals.
I love it. I love it. I appreciate you.
And we'll make sure that with Rick and be able to. But I got to give Rick a hard time and stuff like that. He doesn't steal his internet or something. I'm just making a joke about
tell him he owes me one, man.
I want to make sure you just heard it right here. Rick, say it again. Rick, you owe him.
Yeah.
Say it again, George. You let him know.
Rick, you owe me one, man. I was looking forward to getting on here.
Okay, so you see that, Rick. We definitely make sure that. But listen, man, all the best. Continued success in all that you do. Like I said before, big fan of your work, man. Stay healthy and keep grinding, man. And definitely, we look forward to seeing you down the line.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Cool. George Niang joining us here on the Bottom Line Sports Show. I'm Gerald Brown flying solo. And, I don't know what Rick is doing. I don't know what Rick is doing, but nevertheless, I'm here. And it's great to have George on. Great to have him on. But, let's be clear. I'm going to tell you what went wrong. I'm going to tell you this what went wrong because I have to say something. I'm not going to sugarcoat the truth. See, I'm hot. I'm sweating. I'm hot right now. Because what we are witnessing in the NBA, in that Cleveland Cavaliers series, is a lack of coaching. And what I mean by lack of coaching, I'm talking about a lack of execution, a lack of diversity on the offense. When you can sit back and dumb down an offense and it all comes down to, just the ball movement. It's the ball movement. There is no play calling. Like I watched the team with up 22 with 7 minutes. Now, let's just be clear. In an NBA game, it's 12-minute quarters. Right? It's 12-minute quarters and things happen, right? So, it's hard to stay hot for 12 minutes, right? But when you are up 22 with 7 minutes to go in a game, that's hard. That's coaching. Forget about all this stuff. And you have the timeouts. And you have the ability to say, hey, look, you know what? Call timeout to stop a run. You have a bunch of timeouts. Try different things. You saw that they were putting James Harden in a pick and roll situation, make sure he was switching on to Jalen Brunson. And James Harden at this stage of his career is not a strong defender. He hasn't been ever a strong defender. But let's be clear. Cleveland, George could say because he's looking for a job. Let's keep it real. But I'm going to keep it real. That was bad coaching. And what we have witnessed now is the lack of play calling, a lack of set plays to get you a bucket, right? When I looked at that, it was a lot of 1-4 flat, which is one guy at the top trying to execute whatever, blah, 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 and then pass or whatever, shoot, try to do that. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to make this a series, let alone win a series, which I don't think is going to happen, you're going to need Donovan Mitchell to be more of a playmaker than a scorer. Okay? Donovan Mitchell's ability to be able to score, we all know that. But 30 points in whatever in these games and this series is not going to guarantee you to win. Because I'm looking at it from a coaching perspective, I would say, hey, listen, let Donovan Mitchell get his, but just don't let anybody else beat you, right? Because if he gets his 30 and 40, you're going to be fine. He's not going to beat you. That is the thing that I took away from that. And now the biggest question is, how do you recover from that? I don't know if they can, because you're up 22 with 7 minutes. And there's a built-in timeout at the 7-minute mark and the 3-minute mark. So you had built-in timeouts. That's a tough pill to swallow. And look, give him credit. Kenny Atkinson, no harm. He fell on the sword for his guys, but you just gave a game away. And now, honestly, I believe that the Knicks will win this thing in 4. Instead of 5, maybe 6, 4. Because this is a tough one to overcome, especially on a team that has been physical that has owned the Cavaliers. And look, if you've seen some of my videos the day after, where, I had said previously, last week we were talking about the fact is that I said, look, the only thing that I'd be concerned about with the Knicks is how rusty will these guys be. Shoot the three-point shot and from the perimeter in the first Atlanta Hawks series, in the Sixers series, look, it was lights out, right? They were averaging about 100-something points. It was lights out, right? Shot the ball very, very well. But when you have that long layoff, that rust creeps in. And it was in game one. Jalen Brunson couldn't get going early. Josh Hart, none of those guys. But this is where I'm saying Cleveland got up. And I think that was more or less about the Cavs' inability. And look, I mean, no disrespect. Everybody has an opinion. But I look at the Cavs' inability to close that game out more than the Knicks' ability to come back. Because all the Knicks did was tighten up the defense. And let's be clear and be honest, the Cavs were starting their offense with like at least 10 seconds, 15 seconds left on the shot clock, and they were forcing up a lot of bad shots. See, Orlando in the series in game 6 of the first round series against the Pistons. They showed an inability to run an offense. And what I witnessed back then and there, and I said, where is Kenny Atkinson drawing up a play to make sure he get two things out of this? Either a basket or they're going to the free throw line to shoot free throws. We didn't see that. So now they can spin it and say, hey, it's just one game. No, because now you let the Knicks off the hook. The Knicks, I anticipate, going to come out in game 2, and they're going to be clicking on all cylinders. Evan Mobley, the recipe for the success was there. We saw it in game 7 with the Pistons versus the Cavs. They utilized Mobley, got Jared Allen going early. You know what? Merrill steps up, have a big game. You play off the others, right? We didn't see that. You saw that in the third quarter. You saw part of that, and then we didn't see it again. So it has to be something. And look, James Harden, if you're going to win this series, Kenny Atkinson, the hardest job you will have to do is the same thing I gave credit to Mike Brown that he did when he changed up the offense and said, we're going to run it through Karl Anthony Towns in the first 2 series, even though they went back to just say, hey, look, we're going to let Brunson cook. If Atkinson has an opportunity, you might want to consider bringing James Harden off the bench. Because, look, Harden, I mean no disrespect, but that 9 points, yeah, that okay, I can live with the 9 points. What you can't live with was the turnovers and the poor shot selection. Offensive possessions are at a premium at this late stage of the playoffs, and you got to be able to value the possession. You can't get it done if he's turning the ball over. Yes, he got fouled a couple of times, but it's unacceptable for him not to be in a space where he could take care of the ball, let alone he's not scoring at a high clip. But the fact is he has the turnovers. That is something that, it's going to have to figure itself out. And like I said, the best way for them to get over it, I don't know if coming out and jumping on the Knicks will be the remedy, because the Knicks are going to make run, right? They're going to make a run. Every team makes a run in the NBA. But, can you sustain that run? And I don't think that's the case. Look, the Knicks, you did what you had to do. And right now, you understand that clearly, you know what? Brunson was the savior, okay? I had said before, and I'll say it now. I tweeted this earlier. And make sure you support the show and follow me on Instagram, please. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Jalen Brunson is the best free agent signing in the Knicks history. Free agent signing, not trade, draft, free agent signing. What he's been able to do in this short period of time is undeniable. Tip your hat to him, undeniable. But if you're going to be a major player at this stage and get to the NBA Finals, where the road is already paved, you already got 1. You just need to get 3 more, is utilizing Karl Anthony Towns. Because the worst thing that the Knicks can have happen is that you have Karl Anthony Towns retreat and disappear, and now he doesn't become a major player. That is the big thing for them. And plain and simple, you know what? That is going to be maybe the biggest thing for them. And I do believe, is game 2 a must win for the Cavs? Absolutely. Absolutely. You go down 0-2 in this manner, there's so much pressure going out for game 3. That's going to be a hard pill to swallow. Hard pill to swallow. Talking about a hard pill to swallow, if you want to look at certain things where, you know, a unicorn, right? We've heard this in the narrative that you're a unicorn, or you see certain things that you just don't see every day, right? We call those an anomaly. What we're witnessing with the San Antonio Spurs, and mainly Victor Wembanyama, is an anomaly, right? Their whole setup, you would say, conventional wisdom, say they don't have the experience. Oklahoma City should be able to move on and beat them. No. I'm saying game 2 is a must win for Oklahoma City. Why? Simply because, again, valuing the offensive possession. Witness a lot of the things where, again, maybe the overpenetration of the basketball by the Thunder in certain points in times when they were trying to get back into the game. Get back. And having a guy in Victor Wembanyama where it's so hard to pull him away from the basket and make him guard somebody, that is very challenging, because the space he is covering up for that basket, it makes things so difficult for the Thunder. And look, Alex Caruso saved the bacon for the Thunder, because SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, didn't shoot the ball very well. He didn't shoot the ball very well at all. And what you're looking at is the San Antonio Spurs made the Oklahoma City Thunder a one-dimensional team. That if you're going to hit threes, yeah, that's how you're going to have to beat us. But you come anywhere near this paint, you know where that ball is going. And then on the flip side of that, Oklahoma City is going to have to make a decision on how to guard the others for the San Antonio Spurs, because Victor Wembanyama doesn't need to score 30, 40 to impact the game. He has enough support around him that he doesn't have to worry about getting 30. Think about this. Aside from Victor Wembanyama, one of their most talented players, if not one of the other best players, didn't even play in De'Aaron Fox. And you step in and you have a guy like Dylan Harper, oh, by the way, on a rookie deal, matched up with also Stephon Castle, oh, by the way, on a rookie deal. Matched up also with Victor Wembanyama, oh, by the way, on a rookie deal. What they were able to do, along with Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Julius Champagnie, those others hit big shots. And all that you know is now Mark Daigneault is going to have to figure out how can they devise some type of a chess match now, but how can you survive? How can you devise a defensive scheme that will allow Victor Wembanyama, if you're going to match him up against Alex Caruso guarding him, you're going to have to double him. Well, you double him, you're going to have to make sure that the rotation is tight enough that guys are going to get out on these shooters. And that is going to be the big challenge. So, I picked the Thunder. I picked, the Spurs when this series started, and I'm going to stick with them. And I think this is a must-win for them going into game 2, because you go down 0-2, I don't know if they can recover. And provided that the Spurs don't get hurt or anything like that. But Wembanyama is such an impact. And get this, he's not even fully grown into his body, right? He doesn't have grown man strength yet, right? He hasn't fully grown into his body. And when you look at him, imagine what he's going to be like, provided he doesn't get hurt, right? And get hurt in his development. Like, it's 7'4", right? People were, astonished and amazed by the long three. I was amazed by the fact that is the IQ and the ability to see that he was being guarded by guys way little than him, that instead of staying on the perimeter, he went down in the post and it just threw it up to him. the game becomes so much easier when you have guys that understand the advantage that you're playing with. So those guys that played in Chicago with Michael Jordan, you understand who you're playing with, and you have an anomaly, something that is very hard to figure out how to defend. And yeah, you know, people asking about the fact is, hey, you know, was he upset about, you know, not, you know, taking it personal with the MVP award? I'm not buying into all that, because guess what? He's going to win a lot of MVPs, provided he stays healthy. And you know, SGA and all those guys, if you look at the Thunder, they were built just like the San Antonio Spurs. Sam Presti has come from that organization. And the only difference is Vasil, Castle, Harper, just to name a few, are guys that can create and get their own shots. The guys, no disrespect, on the Oklahoma City Thunder, they need to be set up by SGA. So now with the responsibility, added responsibility for SGA to not only look for his shot, but create and facilitate, I'd be very curious how much of a toll it takes on him in the course of this game, because it's going to be a lot, and I'd be very, very curious to see how it works out. But, you know, hey, listen, it's only one way to find out. I think that we're going to learn a lot about them. And I mean, that them being the Oklahoma City Thunder, and, you know, also the chess match, right? What adjustments will be made from game 1 to game 2 by the Oklahoma City Thunder to try to slow down the Victor Wembanyama. And get this also too, look, coaches on the sideline, organizations are trying to identify, how do you guard this guy? How will you be able to guard him and Wemby? And he's only going to get better. As I said before, think of a guy that we were all amazed by in Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? And you know, how all of a sudden we saw this gangly guy, and then when he got strong, and, you know, all of a sudden it was, oh my God, you know, how do you stop him? You know, and how do you do that? When he got his grown man strength, you know, it was a different story. Well, a guy like Victor Wembanyama, he doesn't even have it yet. He's like a deer right now. It's just, you know, gangly and all that other stuff. It'll be very, very interesting. You know, before I close out, I thought it was interesting that now all of a sudden the rumors are out, right? The rumors that are going out and all this stuff about Giannis, and I heard Miami possibly being a team, and I'm not going to minimize that. But one that I witnessed the other day was a trade rumor that supposedly is percolating around the NBA circles, is that the Oklahoma City Thunder perhaps would entertain trading some of their draft picks and possibly enticing the trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo for Chet Holmgren. And if you ever watch the beginning of the show, I actually say that. I say, hey, Giannis, Chet Holmgren for Giannis Antetokounmpo, and you put Giannis on the Oklahoma City Thunder. And Rick's reaction to that, right? You hear Rick's reaction, and it's like, oh, you know, wow, man, that would. So this was something that we did and said. I said that months ago. Said this months ago. And, you know, great minds think alike. So I don't want to take any credit for that, to see how it plays out. But again, listen, really appreciate the time. It's almost game time. Enjoy game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. You know, definitely we'll see how it all plays out. And I just got a text. Do I think that Victor Wembanyama can do it again? I believe so, because at the end of the day, as I said before, Wembanyama doesn't have to score 30. SGA has to. Wemby doesn't have to do that. Wemby can impact the game on the defensive side. He has enough scoring around him. So if he changes and blocks 6 to 7 shots and grabs 15 to 16 rebounds and he has 18 points and they still win, that's impacting the game. So it'll be really clear. Be very interested to see how that plays out. But make no mistake, it's going to be uphill sledding for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and definitely some uphill sledding for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Knicks, listen, do what you got to do, and understand at the end of the day, you are essentially 3 wins. And if you really want to get technical, 7 wins. 7 wins, right? They're 7 wins away from getting to and winning an NBA championship. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, right? They get three more and 7 wins. They get 7 more wins. They win an NBA championship. And at one point, I said that's impossible. And I remember I was talking to somebody on social media. That's impossible. That's impossible. I don't think so. Why? I'll tell you that next week. Dynamic show is on tap. I heard that this guy, Penny Hardaway, is going to be in the house. That's what I've been hearing. But definitely going to be in the house. And Rick Mahorn will be here. Make sure you continue to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram, please. Really appreciate the support. Definitely appreciate the support all the way around. I'd like to thank George Niang from the NBA, free agent right now, working his way back to the NBA. Like to thank you for tuning in. And whenever you watch the Bottom Line Sports Show, I'm Gerald Brown. Enjoy the NBA Conference Finals basketball. And you know what? You know how we do. Make sure you hang with me Saturday. Mad Dog Sports Radio. Peace.